Um, let's talk about probably one of the, and this is, I don't think super controversial. I think a lot of folks, especially even in the Discord, Mika. Mika's probably right now one of the best characters in the game. I mean, just in general, she's really strong, but like for like healing and stuff like that, obviously there's some like Orlea does that better. But when it really comes to just consistency and grouping, and when it comes to like a lot of just general content, Mika is a character that you are really going to want to work on getting as powerful as possible as quickly as possible, because she's going to be very useful for a very long time in this game. Even before I have her fully maxed, I can at least show why she's good. And there will be other people that'll probably put out other guides at max level that I'm sure you'll also want to take a look at, but when it really boils down to it, Mika, like I said, is probably one of the best characters in the game, and she's definitely one of the best supports in the game. Simply just because of, well, two reasons. When you look at her cards, she has two really strong cards that do a lot of really good things very early on, even before Epiphany. And that is Tactical Analysis and Source of Water. Now, Source of Water right out of the gate doesn't look like it's super good, because heal for 106 when she's got two water barriers that do 151. So, like, why would this be any better than this? Well, right here, plus 1 AP. This alone already starts to just kind of put her way ahead of a lot of other supports in that she can just generate extra attacks each turn. That all changes when you look at her unique mechanic, Wave. Tactical Analysis and, of course, her unique Deluge also gains a wave and then gives another wave at the beginning of the turn. The reason why Tactical Analysis and Source of Water are important is because these two cards synergize very, very well with each other. Reason being that Wave, when you hit 3 stacks, gives you an additional AP. So it behooves you to want to get as many wave as possible, as quickly as possible, to gain as many AP as you can per turn. The reason why Tactical Analysis is really good is because it doesn't cost you any actions. It's a 0 AP card that gives you 1 wave towards your needing 3 to gain an additional AP. And it also gives you an additional 50% healing, which puts this heal on par with a standard water barrier. With the additional AP gain that you can get from Wave, Source of Water, and then eventually Deluge, you're already looking at doing some really interesting stuff. However, there's an underseen mechanic that you can get with Epiphanies that you really need to look at. And that's this Epiphany right here. -2 allies stress. This alone, as a baseline for Source of Water, is already kind of big. And the reason for that is because there are not a lot of cards or a lot of actions that you could do outside of healing at a rest stop that are going to let you reduce your stress. And while 2 may not seem like a lot, you only really get rid of 5 for everybody when you are at a rest stop. So right out of the gate, you can already see how building Mika is going to give you a really solid build for any deck. The heal is increased and you reduce stress. This alone is amazing. Obviously, if you don't have the option to get this version, aiming for the one that gives you wave is also really strong. But this one right here, this one specifically, is the one you always want to look for. You can get it, get it. It will absolutely make the deck. Also, if you get a chance to like target a duplication, do it. Duplicate this card. It's absolutely worth it. Now, when you look at Tactical Analysis, you will also notice that it has a few of its own kind of pluses and minuses. Some of them are decent. 2 wave plus 50% healing. 2-wave for 1 turn, 100% of own healing. Like every single one of these epiphanies can actually turn out to be really, really good. I personally prefer this one. When you use your own card, you gain 1 wave for 1 turn. So anytime she casts any of her other skills, she gains additional wave, which means she can just pump out 3 or 4 skill cards, or any of her cards for that matter, and she's going to generate a ton of wave that turn. It can turn out to be an absolute wave generation machine, which is really good. Otherwise, leaning on the tactical analysis that can heal and then gain an additional bonus to heal is always really good if you need to kind of be a little bit more passive and just go pure healing with her. Because remember, this is not a own heal, this is group heal, this is everybody healing. So that means if you're running, like say, Mika with Orlea, she's just going to get heal buffed anyway. So, solid cards to choose from the tactical analysis epiphany. Deluge, just a good card in general. It is a unique, which means you're only going to end up having one of these anyway. And it's Outbreak of War, which means it's always going to start at the top of your draw pile when you first begin battle. So it's another one of those, if you have it, use it. It's worth it. And there's just not really a reason not to. Whirlpool is her big AoE at damage attack. Again, another reason why Mika is an absolute battery. Her Whirlpool here, this epiphany. It decreases the cost from 2 to 1, does the standard damage, and then you gain 1 wave equal to the number of targets hit. If there are at least 3 enemies hit by this Whirlpool, you will gain an additional AP every single time. And there are a lot of times where you run into situations where using this Whirlpool is going to net you at least 1 additional action point per turn. Like, I can't stress enough how good Mika is as a character. So, when we look at Mika's partners, there's a couple of different options here. Obviously, our standard everyone gets it Yvonne is really good because it increases her defense by 8%, and at the end of the turn, if she doesn't use an attack, you heal 30% of your total health at the start of the next turn. So, take a lot of damage, get a lot back. Solid choice, relatively decent. When it really comes down to your 4 stars, you could pretty much pick any of the 4-star healing supports. They'll work very well with her because they all offer a decent defense boost. 8% here, at 0 anyway. At 0, you're at max, I think it's like 16%. Here you've got 12% that I think goes to 20, and then you've got Arwen, who is actually probably her best in slot 4-star support. The assigned combatants' HP and healing are all increased by 8%. Okay, not a huge start off. However, Honopoko's cheer is gained at the start of the turn, equal to the number of enemies with an attack intention. So if they're looking to attack and there's like 3 of them, that means I'm going to gain, what, 3 stacks of 10% damage reduction? How could you not? Plus a heal with additional damage reduction? Like, overall, as Mika is here to just not really shield or heal, she is here to generate your turn into just being a consistent nightmare for your opponents, for the enemies. This really helps with just mitigating that and keeps a lot of what's just kind of intentionally painful to a much greater minimum than you would get with pretty much any of the other 4 stars. However, that being said, when it really comes down to the top end of partners for her, Nyx. Nyx is really probably the best support 5-star you can get. And she's only available through the Battle Pass. So, yes, you have to pay $9.99. Is that really worth it? In the long run, probably. As her skills and abilities play off of each other. She can proc herself very easily, and for only 4 EP, you're guaranteed to do a lot. So the same thing that comes with Arwen comes with Nyx. The assigned combatant's HP and healing are increased by 8%. When the assigned combatant draws for the first time each turn using an ability, 8% additional damage is dealt by allies for 1 turn. Well, we have a couple of cards that let us do that already, but with that, you can discard up to 3 cards, and then draw +1 cards equal to the numbers discarded. So it's 4 EP, discard 1, draw 2, discard 2, draw 3, discard 3, draw 4. Well, we just gained +8 additional from 0, and it only goes up from there. Nyx is probably one of the strongest supports that you can get for your support characters, simply just because of the fact that draw a card, you gain a damage buff. Everybody gains a damage buff, so it's really good. And in decks where you don't see a lot of that, because it does have to go on to the actual character that you're doing it with, in this case, Mika, we have ways of being able to do card draws in Epiphany. So it's not difficult to get us there. If we Epiphany into the card draw, she's just going to start offering really solid baselines when it comes down to it. Now, that does mean you have to actually farm for it. Like, you've got to try to farm for card draw in her Epiphanies, which that can get very obnoxious very quick. So we either go with Arwen or we go with Nyx. Those are just really our only options right now. So when it really comes down to it, Mika is very, very strong. When it comes to her potentials, you kind of want to try to get to her basic card proficiency as soon as possible, because it gives an additional 30% healing to her water barrier cards. This just means her base heals are actually on par with regular Orlea. Eventually you get into higher stamina increases, increased attacks. Her ultimate abilities give her +5% heal for water barrier if her eager recovery is greater than 30. An additional 5% will be added to that value. And of course, if her ego recovery is greater than 40, 10% source of water recovery for every 5 ego recovery. Beating that, you gain an additional 2. So, a lot of people are like, well, ego recovery, what's that? When you're in a combat situation, each character has an ego recovery value. The higher the value, the more ego points you get per turn. This is another reason why Mika is a really good character. As a hidden value, their ego recovery will allow you to gain more ego points per round, and she's one of the only ones that go higher and gain boosts from having a higher ego recovery. I'll go over memory fragments last, I think. Her ego manifests. So her E1 is you add initiation to Deluge. Initiation is just another way of saying Outbreak of War. It means it'll be in your hand the first turn. E2 means that whenever she takes stress, she will heal for 200% and triggers once per turn. So as long as she's getting stressed, she will heal the party. I've seen this heal for almost a quarter of my health bar every turn. It's crazy. This is a really good E to get. If you can manifest to 2, you're looking pretty good with her. E3 is just the standard upgrade of potential to all cards, which most characters have this. E4 adds a retain to source of water created by Surge. So Surge is her ult, her ego skill, which generally creates 2 sources of water. Normally it just grants exhaust, but with this ego manifested, it will grant retain, which means she can hang on to these cards until you want to use them. Super good if you want to just generate just quick AP a turn. Her E5 is a second upgrade of basic potential for your cards. She's one of the only characters that does this. It's a little annoying, and I'm kind of sad she didn't get something else for this, but what are you going to do? Her E6 is where she really shines. At the start of battle, gain 2 wave. That just means all you need to do is play 1 wave card, and you automatically guarantee an extra AP at the beginning of the turn. That's really good. Now, when you really look at it, there are other options that you can get through things like Blessing of Waves that add additional bonus healing, adds damage, things like that. You gain shield based on overhealing. You know, decent stuff. But if I remember correct, I'm trying to remember where it's at. There was one... Where... Am I remembering incorrectly? I thought she had a ability that let her store AP. Who has that? I actually don't remember. Well, anyway. There is another set of cards or another character that I believe has the ability to store action points for your next turn so that you get to use them on the next turn anyway. Comboing that with a bulk of what she does is just going to be insane anyway. So, yeah. So, memory fragments. For those of you who are level 25 or higher, this applies. Right now, I'm just using the basic stuff because I just haven't actually had the chance to sit down to work on her memory fragments yet, because it is energy consuming, and at the time, I was more working on just trying to get to 30 first. So once I hit 30, this will change. However, the equipment that you can get from memory fragments is very important because it has these set effects on them. There are 2 different sets of gear, ones that have 2 set bonuses and one that have 4 set bonuses. 2 set bonuses means you need at least 2 pieces of that set for it to activate, and the other means you have to have 4 pieces of that set to activate. It's fairly common for people who play games like Genshin or Star Rail or gosh, there's a couple of other games that have systems like this. I'm pretty sure they have one in E7 also. I don't recall. It's been a long time since I played that game. However, that being said, the one more important thing about this is, right now, going in for multiple 2-set bonuses versus a 4-set and a 2-set is optimal. I hate saying that because... ZZZ, that was the one I was thinking of. So, when you go into your simulations, after you hit level 25, you will unlock this memory fragment section. Each of the memory fragment section has 1 set of each type for every single character, for both a 2 and a 4 set. For instance, Phase and Trace has access to a 4-set 35% critical damage of 1-cost cards, which honestly I think is the only 4-piece that is kind of worth it right now, and a 2-piece that gives plus 12 max percent HP. Glory and Authority gives 20% critical chance to cards that cost 2 or more, which there are not a lot of, and that's a very expensive set to work towards. And Tetra's Authority set that gives plus 12% defense. You get the idea. For Mika, and for, honestly, I feel almost every character except for maybe the tanks, you'll want to go with the 2-piece Greed and Tenacity set. So you want 2-piece Blackwing, which is plus 12% attack, 2-piece Scarab, which is increased the damage, shield, and healing of basic cards by 20%, and Executioner's Tool set, which is plus 25% critical damage. Going 2-2-2 with these 3 sets tends to be, right now, kind of the best way to go. If you are running specifically a healer or somebody want more max HP, you can replace the critical damage for the HP. If you are running something that is a bit higher for shield and defense, say Calipe, Maribel, Amir, you'll want a 2-piece Tetra's Authority for the additional defense. And if you are using anything for Tressa, you want this. This is a no one else in the game right now is using this. Tressa will be the only one using this set where you gain increased damage dealt to targets inflicted with agony by 10%. Tressa will use this. Now, that being said, these sets stack across multiple characters. So if you want to be an absolute butthead and build around Tressa specifically, then everyone in your party should have 2 pieces of the Cursed Corpse set. Everyone. Because that's an additional 30% increased damage from agony on every single mob that has agony. That's stupid. That's really dumb. We've also noted that stacking the same set multiple times does not give you multiple of the same bonus, so you cannot use the Seth's Scarab set multiple times to gain 3 different 2 sets of increasing your damage, shield, and healing of your basic cards. That would also be super broken. So, but also super obvious. Most other games that have things like this don't let you stack sets. That would be really weird. That would just be like adding additional pieces of the same set. Why would you overset yourself? Anyway. So, that being said, when it comes to these sorts of things, generally hitting the Greed and Tenacity, Seth's Scarab, and Corpse Hidden tools to get at least 2 of each of the 2 pieces will get you pretty much where you need for any character. Now, the other thing you will notice with each of these pieces of gear is that they will also have additional slots. These will give additional bonuses based on the rarity obtained. Green giving 1 slot already unlocked, blue being 2, gold being 3, and purple being 4. These can also be obtained by doing actual upgrades. However, memory fragments can be enhanced through upgrades. Upgrades consist of a total of 5 stages. Each stage will be set up to unlock additional options based on the sub-options. Your primary option is always going to be the orange, and the subs will always be down here in gray. It does consume memory fragments obtained by doing the memory fragment runs, along with extra units for equipment. You can also dismantle other memory fragments to gain more of the shards. Why did that open up a random web page by clicking on that instead of something inside the game? Okay, because it is super RNG. Wow, that is crazy. What in the heck? So by this is new to me. I did not know that this happened. So by clicking on that % icon, it takes you to this website, which is a probability matrix of all of the things that you are going to want to get based on upgrading the equipment. Each item has a maximum amount of upgrades. Uncommon is 3, rare is 4, and legendary is 5. So yeah. Read on this if you want to know more, because I don't do math. That is crazy. Anyway, yes. As you can see, I haven't messed with this yet. But the idea here is that for right now, outside of upgrading, the idea here is that you still want to end up going 2-2-2 so that you can basically max out your set effects. Once you actually get into your probabilities, that's math and RNG, and a lot of that stuff can just kind of change how some of the pieces actually function. But obviously, the idea is that what you're looking for here depends on the character. With Mika, obviously, for your primary, you want things for health, defense, and critical. Attack just isn't really all the best for her, obviously, because she's not generally attacking that much. So you generally want to push for defense first, then crit, then health. You want defense and health before anything else. Pardon me. We're reading that backwards. So that's Mika in a nutshell. Strong AP generation, one of the only ones in the game, the only one in the game that can do that. Solid healing abilities as long as she is buffed, and just generally all around usable in just about any team that you have. There are other 4-stars and or Leia in a 5-star slot that can do better healing, but when it comes to absolute utility, Mika is definitely your gal. Work on her, get her up. But yeah, that being said, don't think that just because she's a 4-star, she's not going to be good. Mika is hands down one of the most utilized characters in the game and will absolutely put you over the top in a lot of situations when it really comes down to anybody else that you get off a banner, be it a banner character or any of the other characters that you can get from standard rescue. There's just no reason not to use her. Stick with her and she will stick with you. Trust me on that one.